You don't need to be a pitmaster or have expensive, elaborate equipment to make delicious barbecue at home. All you need is a little grill, some time, and quality ingredients. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, go ahead, click the like button and subscribe, and as usual, all the ingredients will be linked down in the description box below. I got a rack of spare ribs here. I just trimmed off the bottom, and this flap right here doesn't have any bones, so I'm just going to trim it off. Plus, I'm using a Weber Kettle, about an 18-inch grill, so it's a little smaller, so it's going to help the ribs fit inside the Kettle grill. I'm going to remove this membrane from the bone side. Some people like to leave it on, and if that's you, then leave it on. I'm going to be using a combination of my own barbecue rub and some Cosmo's dry rub. I really like this Honey Chipotle Killer Bee. They're not sponsoring me in any way, I just really like it. Now, some people like to add oil or mustard onto the ribs. I just like the flavor of the meat and the rub. Again, do what you like to do. I'm going to let the salt pull out the moisture from the ribs, and it's going to make the rub really adhere to the meat. And as you saw, I started with a thin coat of my rub, followed by the Cosmo's Killer Bee rub. I'm going to do the same thing on the underside. You always want a nice even layer of rub all over the meat, even on the ends. So this is how I do it, and most people do it this way. You know, you pick up the ribs, drag it against the remaining rub that's on the pan or on the cutting board, and let this sit. This is about half an hour in. Just gonna let the flavors marinate while I get the coals ready. Now, there may be some of you wondering why I'm leaving that very small bone at the end onto the ribs. I think I'm going to use that to protect the rest of the ribs from the heat. These 20 or 30 briquettes on the side plus half this chimney, it's going to generate enough heat, about 250 to 260 degrees, which is perfect for what we're doing here today. I'll light these tumbleweeds and let them do the work. As you can see here, it's nice and smoky. That means the charcoal is starting to light, but it's not ready yet. This is about 15 minutes later. It's still not ready until the coals are white hot like this. I'm gonna pour my lit coals against the wall of the grill and at the beginning of the unlit coals. And I'm gonna put a grate on and let this come up to temperature. And I like to put a thermometer at the opposite end of the grill away from the coals. That way I can check the internal temperature. Both my top and bottom grates are cracked, barely open, just like so. After about 15 minutes, my grill is about 250, 255. That's when I like to put the ribs down furthest away from the coals to prevent burning. And if your grill doesn't have one of these hinged grates, you should definitely invest in one. It makes dropping wood chips or extra coals a lot easier. Today I'm using apple wood chips, about a handful or so, and oh, don't forget about that little flappy piece you got. It's gonna be great for, you can chop it up and put it in a sandwich or just eat it as is. After the first hour of smoking, I'm taking a page out of Pitmaster Tuffy Stone's playbook. He likes to brush his ribs with melted butter, and as you can see here, it's really hydrating the rub that you have on the ribs. We are basically painting flavors onto our barbecue ribs. I mean, who doesn't like a subtle smoky butter flavor on anything? And with just 1 hour of smoking, look at how nice and rich this color is. A nice mahogany color. Now let's put the lid back on for another half an hour. After another 30 minutes, so now it's about an hour and 30 minutes total, I'm using a spritz of apple cider vinegar, water, and hot sauce. Feel free to use whatever it is that you like to spritz your barbecue with. Now we'll close the lid and go for another half an hour. After a total of 2 hours, we're gonna wrap this up in foil. This is called a Texas crutch. Now I'm gonna put the meat side down first. I'm gonna spritz this with my spritz. Then I'm gonna hit it with both rubs. Now just a light coating of my rub and then the Cosmo's Killer Bee rub. And then I'm gonna spritz this again to saturate the rub to make it stick, and then follow this with a little bit of light brown sugar. Again, I'm gonna spritz this to make everything wet and hydrated so it sticks to the meat. And I'm gonna repeat the process on the other side. Spritz, and then apply some rub, both mine and the Cosmo's, and then spritz it again to hydrate. And as you can see what it's doing here, it's pretty awesome. That way, like, you don't have excess stuff just falling off the meat. And then a light drizzle of honey at the end. I'm gonna wrap this up in foil. This is gonna go back onto the grill, same temperature, 250 degrees, for another hour until we hit a good internal temperature of at least 201 to 203 degrees for doneness. Now I did add a little bit more coals because the temperature was dropping a little bit, and again, adding the wrapped ribs for another hour, and this is what we get. Now you can use your favorite barbecue sauce. What I have here is a mixture of my Spritz with a little bit of ketchup and a combination of both barbecue rubs to create a nice little glaze. Now if you don't want to sauce your ribs, then you're ready to go. Let this rest for about 5-10 minutes before you dig in. But if you're gonna do this, hit both sides, and we're gonna put this back on the grill for about 5 minutes until it's nice and tacky, just like this. Now it's ready to be taken off the grill. I'm gonna put this on a wire rack and let this rest for about 10 minutes before I cut into it. Now, if you're a saucy person, you want to sauce your ribs even more, go ahead and do so. I think this is a perfect balance between sauce and no sauce ribs. And this is very nice and tender without being fall off the bone, which I think is overcooked. But if you like your ribs to be fall off the bone, then feel free to cook it even longer. These are really nice and juicy. They have a nice bite to it. I can feel it. I wish you guys can smell this, and man, this is cutting like butter. Look at the nice little smoke ring there. Very juicy. This is my lunch, so let's head to the table and dig in. Here is our barbecue rib. Pork rib for lunch. I kind of followed Tuffy Stone's technique. I'll put a link to the video that I kind of followed down underneath in the description box, but here it is. Nice, juicy, fatty, a little bit of smoke ring. Now let's take a bite and see how it turns out. Cheers. They're kind of a bit too close to the bone. Like an idiot. All right, we'll try again. I'll take a bite of this thing. Oh yeah, soft. It's pretty tender. Very tender. Look at that. Oh man. It has stuff all over my face. Look, all these bites. Bite, 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 bite. All right, let's try another rib right here. Right there, all nice and smoky like. All right, let's see. Perfect rib. Give this technique a try, man. Like all over the weekend, if you are intimidated about doing ribs, trust me, it's not difficult. You just have to be very mindful of all the little details, right? The time, the temperature, your seasoning, the quality of ribs that you select. And that's all there is to it, guys. Not trying to take away from anything from the Pitmasters and all that stuff like that. I'm not saying that it's just easy. I'm just saying that don't be intimidated by it. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, click the like button and subscribe. I'm gonna finish my lunch. These ribs are awesome. Nice little smoke ring. I'm gonna take another bite for y'all. Look at that. Awesome. Ribs are super delicious. Take care of yourselves, and as always, peace.